And good evening to you, wherever you may be around the world. Welcome to Lighthouse Live on the Lighthouse Live International Podcasting Network. Pastor Mike Douglas with you, along with our producer and co-host Elaine Harlan, and our faithful prayer intercessor, the inimitable Mr. Al Ramsey, with us as well. And before we get started today, just a big thank you to the good folks, the high schoolers from Modesto Christian Interact.
Yes.
And we were out on a graffiti wipeout this weekend on Saturday morning, and as you know, we've been now for about 10 years.
Yes.
And just a great way to introduce high schoolers to serving their community in a dynamic way. And before we go out, we have a half hour of instruction on the gangs in our area, the Norteños and Sureños, and how they came to be, and history of that, and the history of some of those beginnings at the Dual Vocational Institute in Tracy. And then we tell them, you know, here are some of the taggings that you're going to see on the walls, and this is what they mean. So it's a great time. We thank them, and also want to thank the Stanislaus Community Foundation for their support in providing us the funding to buy the paint and the rollers, which are... It's very important because fingerprinting that stuff out just doesn't cut it. You know, it's hard on your fingers and it takes a while, so it's nice to have the rollers and the paint. And also, one of our monthly partners in this is Big Valley Christian School, and their junior hires come out with us about once a month and go out as well. So thanks to all of you for helping beautify the community and help us with that particular project. Let's get going now with our friends from Voice of the Martyrs.
Hey, what's up? This is Toby Mack with a story of real life Jesus freaks from the Voice of the Martyrs.
An elderly woman from North Korea tells this story. She said, in school one day, our teacher told us about a new game. After our parents went to sleep that night, we were to search for a special book hidden in our homes and bring it to school to earn a surprise. The woman goes on to describe how she ran home from school the next day to tell her mom about winning a red scarf with 13 other kids. But her mother and father never came home. They'd been arrested for owning a Bible, and that little girl never saw her parents again. For more stories of persecution, past and present, go online to persecution.com.
You know, it's just a reminder, friends, of the great freedoms that we enjoy here in the United States, and certainly everything is not perfect, but you know, here's a case where a little guy is told by his teacher to play a game to find what turns out to be a Bible and never sees his parents again. So we need to make use of the opportunity that we have in this country to exercise the freedoms that we have for the good of the community. And just a reminder of the Fathering Covenant that came out of our prayer summit this past year in January. Again, many of us pastors here in this area go up into the mountains for 2 or 3 days just to pray. I say just to pray, but it's a big thing because God speaks to us, and this year He gave us a covenant that we made with each other to bring back to our congregations, and we remind you of this every week, reflecting the Father heart of God. We covenant together to model and champion biblical fathering and to advocate for the fatherless within our spheres of influence. And of course, each congregation will manifest that in a different way. They'll carry it out in a different way, but we want you to keep that in prayer as we go on throughout the year. Also ran across a wonderful quote this past week, and our good friend Ross Briles brought this to my attention. An author by the name of John Dixon, and I think he's is he from Australia? Anyway, somewhere in that region. And he wrote this: "We need to live lives worth questioning, and then offer answers worth hearing."
Ooh, I like that. Great? Say that again.
Yeah, we need to live lives worth questioning, and then offer answers worth hearing. And what he's really doing there is he's taking a look at 1 Peter 2:12, which we often quote.
Yes.
You know, as Peter advises us to be careful how we live among unbelievers because they're watching. You know, and then also in 1 Peter 3:15, I believe it is, to always have an answer prepared and ready. But that's just wonderful, and that's why we do what we do, friends, is that by going out into the community and serving on a continual basis, and we really underscore that. It's great to serve once or twice a year, but oftentimes that makes us feel good about ourselves. It doesn't really address a lot of problems because people are hungry more than twice a year. They're hungry 365 days a year. Abused women need help more than twice a year. They need help 365 days a year. You know, and the people who need a wheelchair ramp need that built now, not on our time schedule. So we really encourage you to establish a lifestyle of serving, and there are opportunities right in your own neighborhood. We remind you, you can find many of those opportunities on our daily update website at vibrantcommunities.org, vibrantcommunities.org. Click on the little red flashy thing. What is that, Lane? JP, that's an icon, right? Michael, that's an icon, yeah. To me, it's a little red flashy thing. To you, it's not, yeah. All right. The techies call it, yeah, there you go. I'm glad we got a tech person here today. Click on the little icon there that's flashing red, and that takes you to the daily update page. Also, if you're on Facebook, we're on Facebook as well. It's facebook.com/Advancing Vibrant Communities. And you can connect with some of our opportunities to serve there as well. And also today, Elaine ran across this from Chuck Colson and his Breakpoint broadcast that goes out every day. And we can't rebroadcast that for you because we don't have those copyright permissions. But let me kind of give you the gist of today's story. It's about underdogs, entitled Underdogs. And he's talking about one of my son's favorite subjects, and that's basketball. And of course, unless you're living in Lower Slobovia, you've probably heard of Jeremy Lin. Jeremy Lin. He's just this phenomenon now who burst forth with the New York Knicks. I mean, this guy,
Linsanity, yes.
Linsanity, absolutely. And watch the guy play. I mean, like lately, he's just been tearing it up, you know. Just amazing. Anyway, his parents are from Taiwan, and he is a believer. He is a believer. And what's interesting is that the Communist Chinese government is trying to cash in now on his publicity. You know, because he is Chinese, because his maternal ancestors apparently were natives of the village near the provincial capital, and Colson makes this point: while communist officials were quick to note the birthplace of Lin's ancestors, they were silent about Lin's Christianity. In fact, Lin's great-grandfather converted to Christianity under the auspices of American missionaries early in the 20th century, making Lin a fourth-generation Chinese Christian. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And it says, none of the Chinese coverage of Lin's exploits mention his faith. As a result, relatively few Chinese citizens know about him. However, the New York Times apparently has picked this up, and they've acknowledged that China's Christian minority is often persecuted, and notes the various efforts of the communist government to contain the spread of Christianity. So anyway, it's just a wonderful way that God is using this young man, and Colson notes that it appears that Chinese Christians are learning about Lin's faith and drawing inspiration from it. And I want to come back to that quote we just had here: live lives worth questioning and then offer answers worth hearing. And certainly Jeremy Lin is being well positioned to do that. So let's keep that young man in prayer, because as we've often seen, you know, fame and fortune can also work against us. Let's just keep that young man in prayer, that God will just keep him centered, and that he'll be just a wonderful inspiration to many around the country.
Absolutely. Did we say a big thanks to True Life Community Church for yesterday?
Absolutely, yeah. We have the privilege of being invited to speak at True Life Community Church. Our good friend Carl Bryant, they're a pastor that we've known for many, many years. And I told him, I said, you know, Carl, when we come to your congregation, it's like family. He says, well, you are family, you know, and it's just a wonderful place to visit, and we really feel at home there. And so again, thanks to Pastor Carl Bryant, good folks at True Life Community Church.
What a loving body.
And a great heritage there with Pastor Charlie Crane, establishing Greater True Light there many, many years ago. And Charlie we lovingly call Charlie our bishop here in Modesto amongst pastors.
We just dearly love him.
Oh, what a wonderful man.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to get to lots of fun here in just a moment. We're going to take a quick look at the Volunteer Center of the United Way. Linda Hand List. Join the American Red Cross for Save a Life Saturday. It's going to be on March 10th at the Vintage Fair Mall in Modesto and at the Patterson Sports Complex in Patterson. The past 30 years.
Well, how about that? There's a coincidence.
How about that?
The Patterson Sports Center in Patterson.
Yeah.
Wow,
the ARC has educated the community through the annual CPR Saturday, and this year the agency is going to expand to include disaster preparedness. We love that. So you